let's go ahead and get rolling. Again, we've got a great night. Ken Pfeiffer's here with us for the first 2 hours. The second 2 hours, the 9 o'clock or the 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock hour, our good friend author Stephen Spignacy joins us again. We've had Steve on the show a few times, and it's been about a year, longer than that since we've had him on. And he's gonna be with us for a couple nights, a couple hours, talking about what he's working on. Just an amazing guy and so much fun to talk to. All right, our first guest though is Ken Pfeiffer. Ken is the chief investigator for MUFON in New Jersey. He is the MUFON state director for the state of Vermont and Rhode Island as well. He's part of the MUFON Star. He's a member of the MUFON Star Team, the Strike Team Area Research for Landings and Crashed Discs. His website, and that's how I found Ken. Although I've heard about Ken for many years, he is the founder of the World UFO Photos.org. The website is called www.worldufophotos.org. He's got over 9,000 UFO photos. It's the largest collection in the world. It has over 1,500 UFO case files. Very, very unbelievable site. And Ken is also a private pilot and is a Desert Storm veteran for the Air Force. He was in the 35th Aerial Port Squadron. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and get Ken on the line. Ken, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio and AM 630.
Hey, Pat. Hi. How you doing? I want to thank you. It's an honor for being on Fringe Radio, and there's a lot going on out there, that's for sure.
Oh, man, there is, Ken. No, it's an honor to have you here, and I want to thank you for giving us some time on your weekend, taking a couple hours out and being here with us. But what I'd like to do first is if you could give our listeners a little bit of your backstory. How did you kind of get involved with MUFON and ufology and everything you do? And again, we'll post up some pictures on Facebook, and you've got some amazing stuff. And I had a sighting myself on Tuesday. I didn't get any photos, but I'd like to talk to you and the audience about it and talk about great timing.
Yeah, I want to hear about that sighting you had in Utah there, but basically I've been a stargazer all my life. I was born in Philadelphia. My family moved to a little town called National Park, New Jersey, which is on the Delaware River. It's located directly across from the Philadelphia Naval Yard and also the Philadelphia International Airport. So, I've been looking in the sky ever since I was 7 years old. As a matter of fact, me and my father, we watched Sputnik fly over in October of '57 from my front yard. So I've been a stargazer all my life. I'm always looking up, always looking at the stars. And I had my first, I've got 6 UFO experiences, sightings right to date. And I also had a close encounter at Area 51 with my wife back in 2006.
Wow.
But my first sighting was in 1974, and ever since then, that really piqued my curiosity, and I've been interested in the subject for most of my life. I finally got connected with MUFON probably about 10 years ago, and everything's been rolling along pretty good. I decided to start my website, worldufophotos.org. I was growing tired of going to a dozen different websites and not seeing many photos, and the photos that I did see on these websites weren't very good. So I just decided one day to put all these photos on one website, and that's what I've been doing for about 5 or 6 years now.
Well, yeah, I figure you might as well do it and put it together and organize them up and have something. And again, your website is ginormous. A person can spend quite a bit of time out there looking around.
Yeah, I have many galleries. I have many discoveries. Just look on Ken's Discoveries and Info. It basically lists. I have many discoveries on the moon, Mars, a couple on Saturn, things that I have found through the high-definition photos that have been released by the government and NASA. And sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that's looking at these high-definition photos because I really don't see too much out there, with people discovering different things on these high-def photos.
Well, what's interesting, Ken, is I kind of find it interesting that there's a lot of photos popping up, obviously with the Curiosity rover on Mars rolling around. And of course, people are, there's things that are being discovered, humanoid-looking things, some things that look somewhat man-made,
Yeah.
and then there's so many of the skeptics that are just knocking it all down. But what I'm, and there's a lot of skeptics actually used to call on the program anytime we talk about lunar anomalies, saying, "Oh, you're crazy."
Yeah.
But the stuff is right out there for anybody to look at. There's a lot of what I would say is not naturally created things on these planets. I don't know if it's just shadowing or the angle of the camera, but there's some things that just they look man-made.
Yeah, that's for sure. I would say a majority of the photos, it's like anything else. You look into a cloud and you can pick out faces and objects all day in the clouds.
Right.
And I think, that is what some of these people are doing on some of these images from the moon and Mars. But some of them are definite things. They're definite, they're man-made, alien-made, who knows. But there are some definite things that need to be researched on with some of these photos.
Well, with your and I'm just while I'm talking to you, I'm actually getting some photos lined up to put on the website again. With your site, and I encourage everyone to go look at that. Our listeners look at it. Again, it's World UFO Photos and News.org, .org, and then worldufophotos.org. People need to go take a look at it because I've never seen a collection that large. Is a lot of that stuff, Ken, stuff that's been sent in to you that you've pulled from the internet, from files? Do you get people that'll every now and then send you an email and say, "Here, brother, take a look at this one, see what you think"?
Yeah, I get many from people out there that just need someone to look over their photos, and I get a lot of them from the websites. I get them from MUFON. I get them from UFO Casebook. Billy Booth, he's got an excellent website there, UFO Casebook. Yeah, no, I get them from all over the world, all kinds of people. People are sending me stories and sending me case files now, and my hobby has turned into a full-time job here. I sometimes I hate to say it. I wish there was more hours in a day sometimes.
Well, yeah, I know, especially when you start going through it and you start researching some of this stuff and try to pull the validity of it. Now, you're the state director for you're a state director for MUFON. With the states that you represent, Ken, do you get a lot of people? Are you getting a lot of people that are sending reports in?
I'm averaging, I guess, with Rhode Island and Vermont. I'm averaging maybe about a sighting every other week, maybe 2 sightings a month. Now there doesn't really seem to be a lot of people reporting and sightings. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they're not seeing things, and I think that's what part of the problem is a lot of these people, they don't know who to call.
Right.
They don't know, should I call the police? And if you ask people who MUFON is, you'd be surprised if you were to interview 99 people out of 100 on the street and ask them, hey, have you ever heard of MUFON? And they'll say, what is MUFON?
Right.
Personally, I think that less than 1% of the population, is interested in UFOs, and I would say 1% of the population that have possibly seen UFOs, and even a lesser percentage have reported them. But that's part of the problem. People really don't know who to go to when they see something, that they've never seen before in the sky.
Well, if in your experience of doing this for as many years as you have, if somebody, let's say, doesn't call MUFON, somebody sees something, do they, if they call the local government or the local police, I guess I should say,
Yeah.
do they do anything with it, or do they say, hey, yeah, we'll send someone out and take a report? Do they ever interconnect with MUFON, or does it kind of just die right there and they think the person's
I
crazy?
think it dies on the vine. I really do. I think a lot of, as a matter of fact, I was with the STAR team that I belonged to. I was deployed out to New London, Connecticut a few years ago because a very large, humongous black triangle flew over New London at nighttime. And it was witnessed by the gentleman was a professional man. He had his own business, and there was no reason for this guy to lie. But basically, I don't know if you're aware, but New London, Connecticut, that is where the General Dynamics plant is. Where they make the nuclear subs. That's where the nuclear sub pens are in New London. And also the Coast Guard Academy is there, and also they have a nuclear plant, which is only a few miles away, that sits on the bay. So this would be the perfect spot for for these alien craft to be investigating themselves. And I was there 3 days. I interviewed many people. I went, even went to the police station and asked him. I says, what do you do when somebody calls you about a UFO sighting? Assuming that a lot of people would be calling the police station. And then he says, well, we really don't do anything about it. And I even went to the local newspaper there in New London, and they didn't even want to talk to me. They didn't want anything to do with me. So it was a very strange experience. It was after interviewing 40 people and not getting any kind of response, or people just tell me no, they've never seen any strange lights in the sky. I just thought that was very strange.
Yeah, it is. If I can bore you a little bit with my sighting, and I actually,
let me hear that.
I tell you something. I as I've said many times on the program, I'm not a ufologist. I'm not a paranormal researcher. I kind of consider myself a researcher's researcher, bringing different guests on the show for many, many years. But, I've had in my lifetime before this past Tuesday, actually before this past couple of weeks, I've had 2 UFO sightings, and I've talked in some details. One was back in Chicago in the late 80s. Another one was here in Salt Lake City in the late 90s. The craft that I saw here in Salt Lake on the west side of the desert was just ginormous. I actually put notes together. I never sent them to MUFON. I probably shouldn't. Probably should send people like you, all the different directors that I've talked with. And as I've told people on the air many times, if it's of this world technology, we've got some unbelievable stuff. And if it's out of this world's technology, there's some cool stuff floating around there. But I always try to keep my eyes peeled to the sky. A couple of times I've had a few different individuals. There's different groups of people now here that are all over the country, like Wilbur Allen. I'm sure Wilbur's been taking photos of craft for years. He said the only way if you want to see a UFO, if you want to see anomalies, get out there, start shooting a couple 100,000 frames at a crack, go through them, dissect them, and you will see something.
Oh, sure.
And I've had Wilbur on the show many, many times. And some other guys on the East Coast, some friends of mine that are building up a nice sky watch organization. There's several guys that have gotten high-definition cameras, and they've put them up on tripods, and they're capturing stuff. But my experience this past week was...
tell me all about it.
Yeah, Tuesday night, of course, usually by now it's cool here. Today, Ken, it's 86 degrees. It's still like summer here in Utah.
Yeah.
And Tuesday night I was sitting out on the front porch out on the patio, and just kind of, it was getting dark. It was around 8:15 at night. And kind of leaning back in the lawn chair and looking up in the sky and, watching stuff in the neighborhood. And, of course, what's really interesting is from periodically, you'll see a satellite go overhead. And I kind of keep my eyes on them. I've seen the ISS a couple of times. Sure. But anyway, this past Tuesday night, which was really unique, is while I was sitting there, I saw coming from the southwest heading to the northwest, I saw what appeared to be a satellite. It was a very clear night. The moon wasn't out this week, here at least. Just some hazy clouds, and I saw this what I would call what looked like a satellite, a blip, a bright blip going across the sky. And then as I was watching it, another one came parallel right to it. Now, the spacing I can't tell you because the altitude was just phenomenal. Sure. And I thought, wow, well, that's pretty cool, but I've never seen two. I kind of figure that satellites, I can't see them being in a geosync orbit that close, And then all of a sudden, while I'm watching this, 2 others come from the southeast, one heading up and then another one heading up, and now they are on a parallel course, kind of heading northeast.
Okay.
And as I'm watching these 4 lit up dots move across the sky, which again, to anybody, I would say if you saw a satellite go across the horizon, that's what I could tell you it looked like. But they were all in unison. Then I saw 2 more, one come out of the northwest, one come out of the southwest, another one come out of the southeast, join the pack. So now there are 6 of them. in parallel. And then I'm just looking up. I have maple trees in front of my house, Ken, but you can kind of still see the leaves are starting to thin out.
Sure.
I see another one of these things coming from the straight south heading due north, but I was kind of looking at it and then looking at the grouping of them, and what I found so interesting is this little guy coming from the south to the north accelerated, picked up speed. Now I'm saying these things are probably at maybe 70, 80,000 feet, above where a commercial airliner flies.
Yeah.
Caught up with the group. So now there's 7 of them flying northward. I'm watching them. I didn't think about grabbing a camera or nothing. I was just like, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
Kind of in shock. Yeah.
In shock, and all of a sudden, between a 45 and 90-degree angle, they all take and they just disappear upward.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I drew this off. I actually drew this. I went out and I used Microsoft Paint on my computer, and I'll send it to you. I just, matter of fact, I'll post it up for the folks here on, I think I can post it up on Facebook with some pictures.
Yeah.
A graph of what I drew it out on a graph. But I never saw anything, and as much as I keep my eyes on the sky, I've told so many people, I think you have to really sit back when you star watch, and you have to absorb it all. If you look in one area, your chances of finding something are nil. But again, I was just sitting there looking up. I was actually looking at the Big Dipper, and that's when I saw this all happen, and I was absolutely blown away and amazed.
Now, I was wondering, the brightness of these lights, did they change, or did they stay a constant brightness?
They stayed constant. They never changed. They flew. I was viewing them through some clouds. Some real light, hazy clouds.
Yeah.
But no, they never, ever, ever changed shape. They never, ever changed brightness. The 6 craft that were on what I'll call a trajectory type course never changed speed. They never veered around. They never moved around. But this one that was coming from the south due north accelerated at a high rate of speed to basically catch up with the pack. They continued to fly on a north-northeast pattern, flight plan, if you will.
Yeah.
And then they all 7 of them took a 45-degree turn in every different direction and just kind of popped out.
Yeah, satellites we know don't do 45-degree corrections on their flight path. But so it wasn't like afterburners on military jets, nothing like that then.
No, nothing like that at all. Again, we're talking. Satellite type altitude.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, satellites. They fly from anywhere from over 100,000 feet up to 200, 300, 400, 500,000 feet. They're orbiting the Earth. As a matter of fact, there are some satellites that are way out there that's orbiting the Earth right now. But it sounds like you had an alien craft encounter.
Yeah. Well, I like I said, I when I called Eric, I actually called Eric up, because I've had her on the program. I didn't mean to bother on her personal phone, and she ran out into her deck and she was looking, and she couldn't see anything. Of course, they were all gone, but again, I never saw anything like that before. And I'm not a skeptic, Ken, by any means, but I'm skeptical. I don't believe in wishful thinking. When I see something, some people like to go, I saw this, I saw that, and talk for the conversation.
Yeah.
This absolutely just blew me away. I wish I could have photographed it. I do have some equipment to get going with some sky watching, and I've got to get it together before the snow flies, because I've got a perfect place on my roof I can mount it and get it looking up. But absolutely amazing. And again, all I can tell people is that if you to look in one part of the sky is tough. You just got to sit back and kind of absorb it all. And when you absorb it all and look at it all, it's amazing. And that was, I sat back and and there it was. It appeared for me.
Yeah, do me a favor. Send that to me. Send me a detailed sighting with your drawings, and I'd like to post that on my news website. I think that's a dynamite sighting you had.
Yeah, it was crazy, just absolutely crazy. And like I said, I've been out there every night waiting, same time to see if they'll pop back up again. But no jets, no drones,
Yeah.
And again, the altitude you could tell because while I was viewing them looking up at the sky, and they were flying, of course, way above the cloud cover. But all I could tell anybody is they appeared to be like when you look up in the sky and you go, oh, there's a big satellite going, like a big satellite going overhead. And that's exactly what I thought. But then, like I said, when another one popped up, two others popped up, and then two others came in. I thought, well, geosynchronous satellites don't do that. And then again,
Yeah.
the one that accelerated to catch up, I've never seen a satellite accelerate.
Well, I'm looking right here. It says the International Space Station is in LEO. It's a low orbit, and it's approximately about 250 miles above the Earth's surface. That's how high these things are. It's just incredible at the different altitudes that these thousands of satellites are flying all over the place. But I don't know of any satellites that's doing 90-degree turns or 45-degree turns. I don't know of any that are doing that. So when somebody sends me a report like that, then I write satellites off right away. You didn't see a satellite, you've seen a UFO, and I seem to be the only one that says alien craft. I feel this whole ufology thing's got to go to the next level. It's about time we start stepping up to the plate and calling some of these things, identified alien craft.
Oh, exactly. I actually did, and for listeners that are listening out there, if you go to our website, I can't post photos on it, but we do have a Facebook page, just the Fringe Radio Show. And I'm going to post some of Ken's photos up as we talk here tonight. But I did find that drawing, Ken. I'm going to post it, but I will email that picture to you. Again, I made it with paint on the computer, and just to kind of show you. And I'm actually going to go through the exercise of filling out a full-blown report with MUFON. I don't know if anybody else saw it because it happened quite quickly, but you never know.
Yeah, I've found out. I hate to bash MUFON. They've been in existence since 68, 69 after Project Blue Book, and quite frankly, I think they need to revamp the whole thing. I've found myself, and there's just too many debunkers in MUFON. People who have their own agenda, and I think that I'm hoping that Jan Harzan, the new director, he seems to be on top of doing a lot of changes for the good, and hopefully we can get some of these debunkers out of the organization because they are not helping. With MUFON being in existence since '69, is this all there is? After 50 years, you would think that they would have made more leaps and bounds with the subject of UFOs.
Right.
But they really haven't. It's like I said before, I think there's only 1% of the population are UFO followers, and even a lesser percentage, even 5% of that are people who actually are ufologists like myself, and anyone that is an investigator for any kind of a UFO organization, I would classify them as a ufologist because they're trying to take this subject more serious than most people. They think about it 1 minute and not the next. Even with all these shows we have now, I must say, MUFON, that the Hangar 1 show that they have on TV is excellent. They're finally coming around and starting to say alien craft. And but the rest of these UFO shows, I can't even watch. I feel like jumping out the window after watching them for 5 minutes. But the Hangar 1 show, that I think it's with the History Channel. It's one of the best shows on TV. And if you get a chance, check it out.
Oh, I'll have to. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. We've got a caller on the other line. Can we go ahead and take a call?
Sure.
Okay. Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Ken Pfeifer.
Good evening, Pat and Ken. How are you both this evening?
Oh, hey, Billy.
How you doing? Ken, I'm one of the sky watchers that Pat mentioned earlier, and I'm in upstate New York, and I have a buddy who also does sky watching in Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah. Now, I know that you're the state director of, I think it is New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Is that correct?
Well, I'm the state director for Vermont, Rhode Island, but I'm a chief investigator for New Jersey. But George Fowler, I'm sure you know George Fowler. He's an icon in the UFO community. He is the state director for New Jersey. He's my boss.
Okay. Well, last year I did record something that was quite interesting, and I'm very grounded. I take this from a very logical perspective. I'm not one to jump that it's some type of alien craft whatsoever. But the object that I captured, it was curving upward. It had three distinguishable lights. One was larger toward the front, and there was two smaller ones in the back. It curved up. It stopped suddenly for a brief second, and then it looked like it did warp speed off into space. Now,
Wow.
I'm wondering, are you aware of any of raised activity again in the Hudson Valley in New York? And also, what is the problem with all the drones that could be maybe misidentified as being a UAP or a UFO?
Well, the debunkers are having this is a blessing for debunkers because they, oh, it's a drone. Everything now is a drone, and that's ridiculous. But I've seen drones. I've been at festivities outside. I've been to car shows, nighttime car shows. I'm a big. I have a couple Corvettes that I show at car shows, and I've seen these drones in the sky. And you have to be really simple-minded to think that this drone is an actual flying saucer or a UFO. You can usually tell what they are. They're very hard to hear, but you know what it is. And these debunkers, that's they needed something like this that they can throw at us and say, oh yeah, you must have saw a debunker. But the Hudson Valley up that way, we get I would say most of our sightings from right across from Manhattan there, Hoboken and Jersey City and all them towns there right across from Manhattan. We get a lot of sightings up there, and quite frankly, I think that's Manhattan's bright lights, especially at nighttime. If you're flying around in your flying saucer up at 100,000 feet and you're looking down at the earth at nighttime, Manhattan stands out like a diamond. Right. And I think these lights attract these flying saucers coming down and checking things out. I think that's really one of the main reasons why they are over this populated area, Hudson Valley, of course, and Manhattan area. We get a lot of sightings in Philadelphia, International Airport. I've got two personal sightings myself right in the TCA Terminal Control Area, Philadelphia International Airport, and these flying saucers seem to love airport, bright lights, military bases, nuclear plants, power lines. These flying saucers, the alien craft seem to gravitate to these things, and I think it's just their curiosity, to be honest with you.
Now, I live near Pine Bush, New York, and I'm sure you're aware of the activity that happened here in the 80s and 90s in this area.
Briefly, I somewhat I do. Of course, there's so many cases. There's literally thousands of cases out there. But yeah, it rings a bell.
Now, 2 weeks ago, I did report something to MUFON, and the field investigator did get back to me. Now, I think it was a flock of geese because that's what it looked like to me. But still, it was something that was unidentifiable. I wasn't sure what it was, so I still reported it. But it was interesting because when he contacted me back through email, he said, and I really can't get into details because the state director for New York was involved, but he was here in my area investigating a case with his partner, and something happened again in Pine Bush in someone's backyard. Yeah. And the light came down and it indented the grass, etc. So it does seem like there is still this type of activity occurring. And I'm wondering if you've had are you aware of anything recent that had any person or witness testimony that is similar to that?
No, not really. I mean, our sightings here in New Jersey are fairly simple, simple sightings. We don't have anything as big or as detailed as some of these sightings, like you say, Pine. As a matter of fact, I'm bringing up Pine Bush, New York, right now on my Google Earth just to get an idea where it is. Now, of course, Hudson, West Point Military Academy sits up off the Hudson. I've never been there, but
and we also have a National Guard base, Stewart. We also have a Stewart National Guard base, like 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah. I think the UFOs, like I said, I think they gravitate to these to these areas, and you know, they're just curious. Most of
Bill,
them.
you got to check out Ken's site. It's unbelievable.
And what is his site again?
WorldUFOphotos.org.
Okay, I definitely will. And Ken, continue the great work. And I know sometimes people can be intimidated by the photos they receive or the contacts they make. And you know, I think that sometimes we're made to be intimidated, or the fear possibility when you have this kind of, I would say, credible footage or photos, whatever it may be. But you know what? We have to keep it going, and we have to just provide everything that we can for the public. Because to me, it's all about seeking the truth and trying to come to some type of conclusion, whatever it may be, that something is indeed going on. Who knows? It may be a space program, a secret space program, whatever it may be. But I think it's important that individuals go and look at the sky and observe what's going on above us. Because, like I said, I do this on a nightly basis. I try to do it.
Well, I appreciate it. It's people like you who are the ones who are seeing these things, and it's also people like Pat here on Fringe, on his Fringe radio show, that's just trying to get this information out. And it's
yes.
I think it's very important stuff. It really is.
Bill, you ought to forward some of your. I know you send a lot of stuff to Wilbur Allen, but you ought to send some stuff to Ken. Ken, he's come across some unbelievable video triangle type stuff. These I want to call them orbs, but they're not orbs. They look like big fireballs that have directivity to them. Bill and Eric and some of the guys, they've caught some amazing video.
Well, you can send them to my email address is falcon51@comcast.net.
Okay, Pat, can you text me that when you have the opportunity tomorrow or during the week? Yeah,
I'll get that to you. Yeah, send Ken your stuff because his site is unbelievable. But again, I know Bill and Eric in the Boston area, Ken, and I know they got a couple new guys, and I will be online with my system very shortly. These guys are capturing unbelievable stuff, and they spend, just like yourself, Ken, they spend hours and hours and hours of going through the footage and pulling the stuff out. But it's amazing what they're coming across.
Oh yeah, it's a hobby. It's not a hobby anymore. It's a passion. It really is. It's every day. I can't wait to open up my emails to see what new things I have. It's just incredible.
Ken, again, thank you so much for taking the time, and you're doing great work. And you know, not for nothing. And you're one of the people that inspire us to do everything that we do, along with all the other people in MUFON, Rich Hoffman, with the Star Team, and Erica Lukes, Chase Kletsky, etc. So, again, it's an honor to have the opportunity to speak with you, and Godspeed to you, and I hope that we get the truth very soon.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Billy. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, my wife sometimes says it's a sickness, but once you get delving into this stuff, it's amazing what you come across.
Yeah, in a way, I'm somewhat disappointed with you know, sometimes MUFON treats me and my website like I'm the redheaded stepchild. You know, I've gotten very little. I would say over the last 5 or 6 years, I may have gotten 3 compliments about my website.
Well,
and that baffles me. That just blows me away. I mean, if you don't believe my website, or if you don't believe the photo of my website are real, at least use it as a training kind of a thing for the MUFON investigators. You know, that their witnesses can always go to my website and find something that looks like what they saw. But MUFON won't even do that. As a matter of fact, MUFON just had a big conference here within the last couple of weeks, and I volunteered many times, and for some reason, MUFON does not have a photo presentation of UFOs at their conference. Now that's like the Audubon Society not having any photos of birds at their national conference.
Right.
It makes no sense to me. I mean, they don't have to use me. I mean, I don't have to do the photo presentation, but have someone there that's, believe me, there's hundreds upon hundreds of legit, documented, real alien craft out there that these people can present to the public and with stories, and you know, throw out all the cases that the public have reported, throw out all the photos that the public have sent to different UFO organizations. just the military cases alone, with the photos, the military cases, the astronauts coming out and admitting to aliens, presidents have seen these things. Governors, senators. I mean, there's just a wealth of information out there. And personally, I think that the Washington, D.C., the UFO flat they had in July of '52 blows Roswell away. I mean, Roswell, small potatoes to what happened in Washington, D.C. in July of '52. There was like 2 weeks of UFOs flying over the White House.
Every day, pretty much, correct?
Yeah, and all this was buried. I mean, they said it was some kind of a temperature inversion bullshit thing. Some general came out and made a statement, and of course, everyone rolled their eyes, I'm sure. But I think like I said, I think the Washington D.C. That thing alone is should be reinvestigated and brought to light. There's just a lot of unanswered questions.
With you made a statement, Ken, when you first started about MUFON, and there being a lot of skeptics. Are there more people in the organization that are getting more skeptical of things? Do you think are people starting to lose the open-mindedness? And I know, and I'm going to tread lightly here, because I think what MUFON does and what you guys do, the amount of effort that you put in, and really there's no reward for it. You do it for personal satisfaction and personal goals. But I'm sure you've heard of, like, Elaine Douglas was involved with MUFON here in Utah, and some of the politics in the past years was just, some craziness is what I heard. But and I think with Jan running it now, I think things are getting a little bit straightened out. Maybe some of the old corporals are leaving, but like any organization, you know how that happens, whether it's government, church, or whatever, or hobbies. But is there a lot of skepticism still in the organization, or are people being more open-minded?
It's a good question. It's really kind of hard to say, since I don't know all the ins and outs of the politics. I try to stay away from that stuff. I don't have the time for it.
Right, right.
I like I said, my hobby here is turned into a full-time job, and I think there are still a lot of debunkers. I think there are some state directors out there who either don't care, or they're purposely trying to hide some of the stuff, because I know some cases have disappeared. I know people who have worked. I don't want to say I have an insider with MUFON, but I did have an insider with MUFON, and I was told that many things disappear sometimes. And now it'd be a different story if someone from MUFON come to me and say, if they said to me, "Hey, Ken, the government contacted us 30 or 40 years ago and told us to play a low key on a lot of this UFO sightings and stuff." I can deal with that. I can understand that, but why some of the things that MUFON has done in the past, they need to. We need to update this whole thing. Getting back to why MUFON doesn't have a UFO photo presentation, and quite frankly, the person who analyzes the photos for MUFON, he's been with them as long as I've been there, and I've went round and round with him many times. And when I first started my website, World UFO Photos, I had about 800 or 900 photos on my, just started up, and I was very proud of it, very excited, and I wanted to send it to the person who analyzes the photos for MUFON. And he told me that every one of these photos can be explained.
Wow.
So my jaw dropped, and right at that moment, right then and there, I knew that there was a definite problem.
Yeah.
And this person has been on TV. I'm not going to mention his name. It's really not important.
Sure.
But
sure.
He has been on TV. Sometimes you see him on these NASA shows, and everything that I have seen him on, he is always debunking it. So, I think one of the first things that MUFON has to do is get someone in there that has an open mind and is not afraid to call a UFO and an alien craft.
Right.
I think MUFON needs to take the next step.
Well, and I think, too, kind of a side note to what you said, Ken, about the organization, having an explanation, feeling they have an explanation for every photo. If that's kind of the the overall feel that the organization is given to the general public, then I think people are probably going to start to throttle back as far as what they send in, saying, like me, I know what I saw. I know it wasn't no military aircraft. They were no drones. I know that they were no weather balloons, Chinese lanterns, or even satellites. I know that. I mean,
yes, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But if people are going to go through all the effort to take photos, take the time to draw things up, put it all together, and feel that when it gets sent in, eventually someone's going to go, well, we can come up with something. That's going to put a sour taste in people's mouths.
Well, that's what has happened. There's been too many investigators out there that they guess. They're guessing that, like your sighting. I'm guessing you saw satellites. I'm guessing you saw a squadron of experimental aircraft with their afterburners flying all over the sky. All they do is guess. They're guessing and guessing. They guess what a witness saw, and they write it off. They write it off as identified flying object, drones in the sky, a group of satellites in the sky, and that's what they do. And they call this a scientific method, and it's not a scientific method. It's guessing.
And I don't see a problem, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, Ken. I don't see a problem with somebody maybe challenging somebody, saying, well, are you sure that's what you saw, or could it have been this? I don't have a problem with that, because, again,
Sure.
I like to know what I'm looking at. I don't like to be BS'd at the end of the day. But to just shut somebody down or to disregard something, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, well, that's what happens in the past too many times. People get PO'd and say, oh, hell, I'm not going to submit any more reports to MUFON. I'll send them somewhere else, or I won't do anything with them. I'll just keep the information to myself. So it's I don't get me wrong. I love MUFON. I love the people in MUFON. This is probably the most rewarding thing that I've ever done. I have access to all the cases with MUFON from all the states, but then again, sometimes I have a little bit of spare time and I start looking at other states' cases, and I also start looking at some of the cases that are classified as a hoax, or I look at cases that are identified as an identified flying object, IFO, and I read through the cases and look at the evidence, and I'm saying, what the hell? I mean, why would they write this off as a identified flying object, or why would they call this a hoax? It's up to the state directors to get rid of people who have their own agenda, is what I say.
Right. I totally agree with you. Ken, we've got to take in a couple of minutes. We got to take a news break, and we got you for another hour after that. And I want to talk about your pictures. I've started to post them up on our Facebook page and want to talk about some things. But before we go to the news here in about 3 minutes, you're a member of the STAR team. What is the MUFON STAR team? What is that? What is that ultimately for?
Well, it's basically what we try to do. Well, of course, to get on the STAR team, you have to be an investigator with at least a few hundred cases under your belt. I have about 600 or 700 under my belt right now. But basically, what we try to do is we have the equipment, we have the knowledge, we basically know what to do. If there's someone says that a saucer crashed in Vineland, New Jersey, we're the first ones, supposedly the first ones to get there. And, of course, what we would try to do is beat the military there. We would try to of course, there'll be police there, but hopefully with some of the credentials we have. And as a matter of fact, I have my own badge. I have a badge that says, like a police badge, that says I'm a MUFON investigator. So, maybe I can get into a crash scene if I present this to a policeman. But essentially, we're just trying to get there and before the military does, because they'll rope everything off and close everything down. So our job is to try to find out the truth, of course, and to see what happened, and if was there any artifacts, any aliens, dead aliens. So we are supposed to be the first ones there, a response team, basically, and I think that's why they created the STAR team.
Do you think that local authorities would work with you, or do you think they would kind of kick you out?
No, I think local authorities would probably work with this. I think they would, unless they got the call from the Army or the Air Force to section the whole place off. But no, I think some of these policemen, you'd be surprised of a lot of the policemen who have seen the UFOs, and they're probably just as curious as anyone else, and they're a credible, really credible witness, and we have, as a matter of fact, we have a New Jersey case here where a police officer down in, I believe it's Brigantine, he had an episode that we're still researching, but yeah, hopefully the police would work with us.
Well, yeah, because again, I could, like you said, if it was a military operation, and I could understand local authorities saying, hey, look, something went in over here, we'll let you grab a quick look at it or whatever, but of course, let's keep it low key so we don't cause panic and get everybody up in arms. But
Yeah.
again, with the training and the things that you've seen and all the investigating, I think I would, if I was a police chief, I think I'd want somebody there that could take a look and give me a yay or nay.
Yeah, because we had the radar. Just my mind went blank. The radar, not radar, the Geiger counters.
Right.
That's one of the first things we bring with us. I have my own, and that's the first thing that we would have on. I don't want to be going near something that may be very radioactive, and so that's the kind of equipment we have, and we're like I guess you can say we're like a forensics type of an operation where we would bring our sample bags and our rollers and cameras and everything else, all the equipment we would have to properly investigate a possible landing or even a crashed craft.
Right.